light of the world. I recall the time when my dad brought me to a small swimming pond at night. And that was when I was a small child in the farms of China, over 40 years ago now, when we mostly lived by the light of the sun and the oil lantern at night. My parents worked in the daytime, and sometimes on those hot days, they would swim at night. My dad brought me to the pond while there was still light out, and we watched the sunset. And it was quite dark until our eyes adjusted and the moon was out. Then we saw all these little sparkling lights moving around us. Well, they looked like moving stars on the earth. Well, they were fireflies. My dad caught one and showed it to me. It was a little bug, well, like any other bug, really, but it was different. It shines a little light from its body. I was told that people catch these little fireflies and put them in a container to give light so they can study at night. You gotta love Asian parents. I was in junior college at PCC, walking to class when I encountered a fellow female student who was noticeably blind. In a three-way walking walled area, facing the middle wall, she was poking with her stick and kept getting stuck. I asked if I could help her, and she said yes. And since I'd never helped anybody before that way, I reached for her walking stick and grabbed it to get her in the right direction. She quickly corrected me and told me to give her my arm. She then explained to me that her walking stick was like her eyes. I was grabbing her by her eyes to try to help her instead of giving her my arm. She was unable to see, and, well, I was unable to see how to help her. There are times when we feel helpless, isolated, frustrated, powerless. We feel as if we are in the dark. What does our passage have to say about this? Well, John 8:12, again, Jesus spoke to them, saying, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." Now, let me give you a bit of the context. Most scholars think that our passage flows naturally after John chapter 7, verse 52. The events of this passage took place at the Festival of Booths, which is one of the great festivals of Israel, celebrating the completion of the agricultural year. The Jews built booths to commemorate the deliverance from Egypt by the hand of God. And in this large social gathering, there were different people who had different ideas about Jesus. We learned that Jesus' own brothers did not believe in him. Others heard about Jesus and they were curious. And still others wanted to kill him. So Jesus privately went to the feast. He entered the temple and started teaching the people. The people marveled that he was so educated. Throughout the feast, people were wondering who he was, and the Pharisees were trying to arrest him. So on the last day of the feast, Jesus said that he was the living water. More people marveled and believed, and again, there were those who already had their minds made up. Then we come to our passage, John 8, verse 12. Again, Jesus spoke to them, saying, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." I want to give you two truths and three aspects from this passage. The two truths are the truth of external darkness, and the second, the truth of internal darkness. And then the three aspects is that from this passage are the response to the two problems. The first is, I am the light of the world. The second, whoever follows me will not walk in darkness. The third, but will have the light of life. Truth number one, the external darkness. I have called these external darkness and internal darkness as truths because they are observable reality of our life experience. We see so much darkness in our society. The divisiveness from political, economic, environmental, racial, gender, and a host of ideologies and confusions of history, distortions of facts resulting in all kinds of confusion. We also see the problem within the church, the divisiveness between Christian denominations and organizations, within individual churches, between the individual church leaders. And of course, it's not only in the society and in the church, but also within our own homes, our family relationships, struggles between spouse, between siblings, between children and their parents. Well, by the grace of God, we do not always experience this strife so intensely or on a normal basis. Our life is often relatively peaceful, but at the same time, we are also aware that divisiveness and discord can occur at any time. Often those who are involved have their own best intentions in the struggle. Our society, our churches, our families are not experiencing the kind of life relationship that it should really supposed to be. As Eliphaz says to Job, for affliction does not come from the dust, nor does trouble sprout from the ground. But man is born to trouble as the sparks fly upward. And that's from Job 5, 6 to 7. Truth number two, the internal darkness. The problems do not grow from the ground, but from the darkness of the human heart. Our Lord said in Mark 7, 21 to 22, for from within, out of the heart of man comes evil thought, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, coveting, wickedness, deceit, sensuality, envy, slander, pride, foolishness. The external darkness is caused by the internal darkness within the heart of each fallen soul. Consider it for yourself. Why are people so stuck to bad habits that they just can't stop? Some Christian psychologists call these the habitual sins. People tend to have one dominating sin that affects them the most, aside from all the other sins that are often connected to this larger sin. Some people, for them, it may be an addiction to alcohol. Others may be to lying. For others, it's greed. For others, it is the constant desire to control the situation around them or to control other people. People are prone to one dominating sin among others, and it is deeply grown within, so nearly impossible to deal with, let alone root out. So those who have some understanding of, say, alcoholics and the work needed in attending a AAA meeting would be familiar with this saying, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. That is the negative and sad reality. That is why the members chant at the end of each meeting, it works if you work it. This is the cry of hope, a desire to keep making improvement. Each day of abstaining from alcohol is a success. Sin is deep and dark within the heart of each person. What hope is there? The three aspects in response to the two problems are: one, I am the light of the world. Aspect number two, whoever follows me will not walk in darkness. And then aspect number three, but will have the light of life. So aspect number one, I am the light of the world. Jesus said, I am the light. Before there was time and creation, Jesus existed. It is Jesus who created everything. We see that in John 1. Jesus called a light into existence. Genesis 1:3. Now we read that Jesus identifies himself as the light. He was the light before the great light by day and the lesser light by night. He was the creator, the light before there was our solar light, the sun and moon. Jesus is God. Jesus is the cosmic light. He was before the creation of light. He was beyond humanity, and yet he became fully human so that he can help humanity. Of the world. Jews only thought of their own little Jewish world, but Jesus says that he was the light of the world. Jesus was saying that his being is far beyond their expectation, beyond their social and cultural knowledge. He is the light to the entire world. Jesus was saying, when you think of the sun and how it covers the entire earth in a small way, that is what I am like, he's saying. And there are similarities between light and Jesus. Here are some of them. Light is out there. Jesus is out there for the world to receive him. Light exposes problems. Jesus exposes the problem of sin. Light is warm and melt things. Jesus can melt a heart of stone. Light makes things grow. Jesus makes us grow. All those and many more aspects about light are true and valid, but we need to be careful in drawing too many illustrations. This passage is known as one of the I am statements. The focus is not on light, but on Christ. The subject of the sentence is Jesus. He is the focus of our attention. What does Jesus being the light have to do with us? The remaining two aspects. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Jesus being the light results in change in us and to the way we live. Aspect number two. Jesus makes a change within us. Will not walk in darkness, but will have the light. This strong contrast between darkness and light is speaking about us. We were in the dark, and now because of Jesus, we are in the light. We are in him. Paul writes in Ephesians 4:18, they are darkened in their understanding, alienated from the life of God, because of the ignorance that is in them, due to their hardness of heart. That is what we were. Yet God got into the darkness of our mind and turned on the switch. God got deep down into the darkness of our heart and changed it from a hard and senseless stone and gave it life. We call this regeneration. If we follow him, we will not walk in darkness, no longer stumbling in the dark. It's changed within us by God changing our hearts and mind. Just as light enables people to see, so God enables his followers to live out their life in a new way, no longer stumbling and hurting others and ourselves. Aspect number three. Aspect number three. Jesus makes changes to the way we live. We'll have the light of life. The word walk in speaking about a person's life is idiomatic to mean the way of life, the way one lives his or her life. For example, we see this in Luke 1:6, and they were both righteous before God, walking blamelessly in the way, the commandments and statutes of the Lord. And Ephesians 4:1, therefore, as prisoners of the Lord, I urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling in which you have been called. Our life was lived out stumbling in the dark, and now Jesus helped us to see what we were not able to see before. Jesus' followers were not originally called Christians. They were called people of the way. You see, you see this throughout the book of Acts, in fact. And I love that. I mean, John 14:6, Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and the followers of Jesus are called people of the way. Christianity is a verb, an action-oriented people. We were formerly in the dark, and now we are in the light and able to do good works that is glorifying to God and helpful to our neighbors. And I have two application points. John 11:9-10. Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in a day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. My first point is a bit of a heart check. Are you stumbling because you still are in the dark? Jesus is the light of the world. He can come into your life and change your life. If you don't know Jesus yet, please speak with a Christian and find out more about Jesus and how he is able to change your life. And now for the Christians, does that mean that Christians never stumble? If we are honest about ourselves, we would have to admit that we still stumble. Maybe in different ways. Maybe that we can more quickly recognize that we are stumbling and can take action quicker to prevent further damage. But we do stumble. We may have the light, but sometimes we close our eyes while walking in the light and get into a lot of trouble. We need to keep reading His Word regularly and keep in step with the Spirit to guide us. As Psalms 119:105 says, your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light to my path. Imagine that. Having headlights on your feet. That's the way it is for the Christians if we read Scripture. The Christian life is a lifelong walk in the light with the Word and the Spirit. Now, the second application, be light to others. Be light to others. In the following chapter, Jesus says, actually, John 9:5, as long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Jesus also said in Matthew 5:14, you are the light of the world. Jesus is not on the earth as he was with the early church. The great light is no longer physically present on the earth. I recall that day when the light of the sun was gone and darkness covered our little pond in China. Even at night, the light of the sun is reflected off the surface of the moon. And it was in the dark that we were able to see these little lights from the fireflies that shine all around us. He is still here. He is in you. You are in Him. You and me, Jesus followers, are the light of the world. We are the light to the world. Christianity is a verb. Christians are people of the way. We are to bring light of good deeds into this dark world. I will close with the words of Jesus in Matthew 5:16. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven.